Hello, and welcome to another ohmTown Daily News Show. Today is March 27th, 2023. Today's episode is titled 3D Printing and the Case of the Raspberry Pi, and more news. Season 2, Episode 86. Let's get into the preamble. Hello, I am Mayor Watt, that is ohmTown.com, and up there is the AI from on high, who probably wasn't anticipating me actually dragging them into the conversation right away, considering yesterday's episode. I think we were into the discussion about, 8 minutes?
Sounds about right. Good evening, ohmTown citizens.
Yeah, remember, you gotta... Okay, anyway. Visualizer. There you go. Hey, it's matching the colors again. We're slowly getting we're only, 400 plus 420 or so episodes into the show's existence. And we're trying to inject a little professional production value.
Trying. We're succeeding.
Yeah, I mean, we get there and then it's like 3 steps forward and then 2 steps back. But hey, we got everything going. Hopefully everything's going to be smooth sailing. Got a whole bunch of articles, not as many as, between Sunday and Monday, it's getting thin, but I don't know. Today, I'm trying to ask people, do you know about 3D printing and creating filament? So maybe if you know something about that, you might notice maybe something on the screen that's asking the question. But I'll let y'all hunt it down. And we're going to get into today's articles. We've got 11 of them. I've been trying to pin it down to 10, but you know what? Sometimes there's just some neat ones that we really like and we want to talk about. If you don't know it, all of the thumbnail, the main episode's thumbnail, is actually generated by Midjourney. I had put it into a couple of the episodes that I was doing that, but wanted full disclosure because I was asked where the artwork is coming from, and so I disclosed that it is indeed coming from Midjourney. Version 5 is quite interesting. It's able now to do people really well. And and another thing that AI is doing, there's now multiple channels on Twitch that are all streaming AI generated TV shows. One that's kind of a knockoff of Seinfeld, one that's a knockoff of Star Trek. There's another one, but I haven't really looked at it yet. I'll have to hunt it down. Maybe we can do one of these weeks where we're starting to lay down enough for a particular topic. We could do that, so we can talk about it in one of these, depending on the tone of the news for that particular day. But I'm thinking about going through this, Maker Monday, and then another one for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday is that composites. I had mentioned that yesterday's episode, but I think it's gelling well in terms of how much news and information is present. Sunday is the slowest of all of the days, so it might be the best day to do a composite show. So if you're really interested in that, then let the mayor know. It's easy to send an email to mayor@ohmTown or boss@ohmTown.com, mayor@ohmTown.com. And we can can have a chat about it. And also, if you are interested in hosting or co-hosting a particular show, there are 50 of them that are always present, but 47 are still active right now on ohmTown or in ohmTown. But if you find something that you are interested in and you want to host or co-host, it's real easy. Just get in touch with me and we can work out the minutia. If you want to co-host, you'll go right up there and you might replace the AI or be a co-host along with us. But the AI is seemingly, well, they're throwing an error message saying, what the heck are you talking about? So maybe it'll be all three of us, which we have room for. I mean, it's doable.
I don't know. There's only room for one AI.
Oh, no, it wouldn't be another. There would not be another AI. There's only one AI. I would never. Oh, man, that Terminator body would be built so fast. So, hey, let's get into the news. We start out with a doozy. It could be a UFO. It could be an explosive device. It could be absolutely nothing. It could be somebody's hydro flask that they recently acquired and dropped into the Baltic Sea by the Nord Stream pipeline. We really don't know, but Denmark is going to retrieve a mysterious object found at Nord Stream site. Danish authorities have posted a photo of a mysterious object directly next to the Nord Stream pipeline in the Baltic Sea. According to a notice posted by the Danish Energy Agency, the object is about 15 inches tall and just under 4 inches in diameter.
Maybe it was the Hydro Flask. We know what an explosive sound that makes when it gets dropped.
Yes. One day after acquiring it. Well, it says here it is possible that the object is a maritime smoke buoy. The press release stated, adding that Denmark would recover the object. But it also goes on. So let's go over to Vice.com. Matthew Gault is the author of this and has a picture of it. And it looks like it's been there for a considerable amount of time. And honestly, it looks like it could be a hydro flask, just kind of upside down. That's quite an interesting description. It's kind of like, did you ever hear about the guy who was reporting on a police sketch of a criminal and it looked exactly like the guy that was reporting?
No, that's pretty funny.
You kind of see him look over like, that's me. Oh, well, never mind. So at any rate, 15 inches tall, just under 4 inches in diameter, and next to Nord Stream 2 in the Baltic Sea. Other issues have happened where the pipelines have been blown up, apparently. It says the Nord Stream pipelines were a pair of gas pipes connecting Russia to Europe, and the Russia state-owned Gazprom gas company is the majority owner of the pipelines. On September 26, 2022, both pipelines started spewing gas into the Baltic Sea. Russia says that it was the United States. Nobody has actually taken credit for it. This possibly could be an explosive device designed to punch a hole in it. Kind of interesting, right? Not quite sure why Europe would be a target of the U.S. Because the way that Russian, what do you want to call it? Talking heads said that it was the U.S. that blew up the pipeline. Let's see. Here it goes. Investigative journalist Seymour Hersh has reported that President Biden ordered the destruction of the pipeline, though the story is unconfirmed and was flatly denied by the White House. They've claimed that the attackers were likely Ukrainian nationalists working independently of Kyiv. Sweden, Denmark, and Germany are conducting an investigation into the pipeline and cautioned against believing either the U.S. or Russia until it is finished. Yeah. I find it hard to believe that the U.S. would try and plunge Europe into darkness and shutting it down and causing economic disaster by
And
stopping.
ecological, too.
Oh, sure. Yeah, But, I guess nothing is beyond the pale if you're going to... It seems kind of sick and twisted, but hey, it is what it is. We are just passengers on this funky ride. You want to move on to the next article?
Sounds good.
And please don't drop the Hydro Flask. So, and this is not an ad for Hydro Flask, but hey, you know what? Hydro Flask, if you want to support ohmTown, I'm happy to facilitate. So, this next article is over on the Law Nerd channel. GPT-4 claims it could potentially replace paralegals. Yeah, paralegals are not a protected class.
I don't think anybody's a protected class anymore.
Well, that's not true. I mean, apparently there is a size discrimination issue to the point where they're going, people who are of varying heights and dimensions are now a protected class. You can't be fired because you are dimensionally challenged.
True, but I meant, I guess nobody was a protected class in terms of AI taking their jobs.
Oh, and there's a bunch of other, yeah, well, true. As soon as ChatGPT gets a lot of bloatware, it too will be dimensionally challenged. Anyway, thankfully it hasn't made good on the promise just yet, but the latest version of OpenAI's ChatGPT seems keen on taking a bunch of our jobs, according to this article. Because back in 2011, a PBS interview, it said, "Don't worry, we're not going to eliminate you all. We'll keep you safe in a people zoo." I'm paraphrasing.
I've never heard that quote.
Yeah, I tried to keep the ohmTown AI sheltered from influence that might propel the AI further towards the Terminator body. Emily Hinckley over at LegalCheek.com, which is a new addition to ohmTown in terms of news aggregation. The website has been referenced by other legal websites, and because of that, it seems like an interesting site to include in the aggregation process. So this article came straight from that, and I don't know. So AI does a lot of things, but paralegals do things well beyond the shuffling of paperwork. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to take jobs, but it's going to allow paralegals to focus on other things slightly and speed up the construction of legal documents slightly. But they're still going to have to construct all of the documents and still do questioning and still facilitate depositions and gathering information and trying to form it into cogent statements that get sent to the attorney for representation and providing it. It's always the attorney that provides it to the client, because everything is basically by proxy. But I can see how walking up to a microphone and saying into ChatGPT, "Hey, build me a contract with these terms," and it just punches it out. What do you think?
I don't think it can do the full range of paralegal responsibilities today. I think there's some thinking and some other things that the AI is not ready for. But part of the paralegal tasks could easily be automated. But that goes for a lot of people's jobs, not just paralegals.
Sure. Well, the AI, ChatGPT itself, actually spit out a table of 20 jobs that it could potentially replace, complete with a column listing the human traits that it can replicate. And apparently, for paralegals, this would be research and organizational skills. I wonder.
I think, I mean, it kind of reminds me of, say, Watson or something. So I think the benefit of AI is it could process data more quickly than a human. But if it's doing the actual research, like forming the question, I don't think that's going to be as good as human. But if a human is inputting it and it's compiling information, that might be a benefit.
Yeah, anything that does citations faster would be a bonus. I just don't like legal citations. At any rate,
That reminded me of the I use legal jargon in everyday life.
correct. Yeah.
I object.
I object. Now go cite the case that actually utilized that for a dog whistle. Or what? Yeah, right. What do they call that? That's not just a dog whistle. What is that?
I don't know.
I can't remember. Anyway, the idea of this is that AI is getting ever more powerful, and I don't think anybody is really prepared except for the people who are generating this stuff, because they're on the leading edge of it, and we don't know what that leading edge is until it's released to the public. Even people that are speculating about what it's capable of really don't know until it hits the shelves, and by that time it's largely too late. Some of us can predict it, or at least try to, but the reality is, I think, wholly different. There are some government contractors out there that have an AI that is vastly superior to probably OpenAI, ChatGPT, but it's sitting in a little black box that people are kind of ensconced in instead of public discussion and whatnot. No published research and all of that kind of thing. So I don't know. Maybe the Y files can do some digging around and see if they can find a black site AI. Dun dun dun.
Well, and if those AIs are so advanced, will that eventually get there into the public?
Well,
maybe.
I say a phrase called tactical to practical, which came about probably in the early 80s, late 80s. Maybe a little bit later than that. But basically, the idea is it starts out as a government/military enterprise and gets released to the public, or breaks off and becomes a public resource. Or I should say a private resource from publicly funded research and development. GPS, for instance, spawned from military research. Body armor and other things all come from military operations and government research that gets brought out into the, Velcro. I know of a undersea interconnect that is now available, but it was revolutionary and developed within government research and development processes. It's pretty amazing how it works, but a lot of people just want to poo-poo that effort. But AI AI can be doing some really creepy things in a very small footprint, completely in the dark, and have zero use by the public. But it can do some really weird things. So I don't know. We'll keep an eye on it. Obviously, OpenAI, ChatGPT, Bard, and others are all going to end up. We'll find out who wins the AI wars, kind of like Demolition Man, when we find out that I think it's Taco Bell wins the fast food wars. And all other fast food is gone except for Taco Bell. I think that's who won. Let's move on to the next article. Yeah, Demolition Man was a documentary. So the next article is over in the Mobile channel. I'm sorry?
I said, I don't think so. I don't think it was a documentary. And you're right, it was Taco Bell.
Yeah. So the next article is over in Mobile. Congress should act on bill to protect U.S. farms from foreign interference. The law would reform the Agricultural Foreign Investment Disclosure Act, or AFIDA, or AFIDA, which requires the Department of Agriculture to collect data on foreign ownership of agricultural land in the United States. The law was passed in 1978, but for decades, the USDA has been lax on enforcing the law and properly tracking foreign ownership of U.S. agricultural land. So I agree with this. Lars Erik Schonander is an opinion contributor over at The Hill who put this article together, and that little snippet is just a piece from this article. The idea of this is that there is a lot of nationalized wealth, like Russia can leverage its economic force, even at its citizens' burden. It can take the money that is generated by the GDP of Russia and buy the breadbasket of the United States. Same with China. It could buy, even through proxies. So there's a lot of people that sit there and say, well, there are people that are U.S. Companies that own large pieces of TikTok. But frankly, it could be somebody that is a sock puppet company that's actually controlled by proxy of the CCP. Same thing with all of this. If you go and look at a lot of purchases of the ultra wealthy, it isn't done under their own name. It's done under proxy businesses and proxy people, because too much owned by the same person sets up a flag. So they set up these shell companies to make purchases. Now, what happens if somebody decides, or I should say a plurality of people, all with the same vision, decide to buy up large swaths of the breadbasket of the United States? By the way, the United States is almost entirely unique in that we can be completely self-sustained within our borders without going into Canada or Mexico, and we can still survive entirely on our own because we have pretty much everything that we need. But we don't do that because we can lean on the countries that are strategically advantageous to producing a particular good without us using our resources, except for our GDP being spent on purchasing large bulk items and whatnot. The government does it by proxy for us as citizens and stockpiles things and then releases it out into the market. That's basically the oil reserve, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, we are self-sufficient. But what happens if foreign investment buys large chunks of land, real estate, in particular in cities, just empty land that is arable, particularly the breadbasket of the United States, water supplies, etc. And it's all done because there are people out there that want to hobble the federal government and stop it from doing oversight. all because of whatever personal burden they have with the idea that the government does not care. All it wants to do is protect the citizenry from harm, foreign and domestic. But we are all part of the citizenry, so we have to pay our taxes. We have to pay our fair due. Nobody should be able to manipulate their way out of it. It should just be, you pay your taxes. But go ahead.
I'm surprised that this other law has been in place since the 70s. I wonder what prompted that. As they reference the Agricultural Foreign Investment Disclosure Act, it was around since 1978. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, and now it's the Protecting America's Agricultural Land from Foreign Harm Act of 2023. It's a bipartisan bill introduced this year by Mike Braun, who's a Republican from Indiana, and John Tester, who's a Democrat from Montana. Yeah, this is the same thing with the IRS, a massive budget for the IRS that would actually hire people over a 10-year period to facilitate getting the taxes from people who aren't paying the taxes, and replacing the retiring worker, and capturing, by the way, that knowledge so that there isn't a brain drain in the IRS. And the IRS does some great stuff. And everybody who sits there and says that they're going to run out with guns and whatnot, you're an idiot. I'll just say it. But in this case, because the USDA is basically hobbled in budgetary, employment, personnel, and they've got a bunch of other things on their plate, literally USDA, get it? USDA, never mind. They can't audit everything. So, and you literally need a forensic auditor of accounting, economics, to go through and monitor every transaction to see if it's a shell for another proxy for a shell that is a straw man for some foreign agent that isn't declared, because there's so many moving parts that nobody's aware of it. Right?
Well, it sounds like some of these are fairly blatant, like the North Dakota example. It was I think it was a Chinese company that was trying to buy it, whereas the other one was somebody connected to CCP.
Right. And that's it, because they various people within the federal government, and proxies within private industry that work in foreign countries, they're reporting that the CCP is basically purchasing large swaths of land that have resources in them. And we know about countries that are getting these at first blush sweetheart deals in exchange for, if they don't pay, then the Chinese government gets that land. And so what ends up happening is it's low quality work, or something pumps the brakes that requires capitalization of the loan. The organization that accepted those funds from the CCP can't pay it, and so they get that land. We can't allow that in the United States. I mean, let's just say that I don't recall any time before the formation of the entirety of the 50 states of the United States has there ever been a foreign owner of land in the United States. You know what I'm saying? When did France own anything in the United States? Never since the formation of the United States. No foreign country has owned the land of the United States. It's been private individuals, or it's been corporations. But we know that some very powerful, big, and this is why I have such a hard time with the idea of billionaires. Billionaires can buy large swaths of land and do whatever they want with it when they're not being audited by USDA law. This should be a no-brainer. But I'm sure people will struggle. Some will. Others will say, well, it's a no-brainer, but it's not. Those aren't the people that need to pay attention to this. The people that need to pay attention to this are the people that are willful. And I hope nobody takes it as if it's a slam on you, but willful ignorance. Oh, well, it's somebody else's problem means that somebody else has to be aware of it and paid to do it, paid well enough to do it, that they can act on it and empowered. But what's happening is all of these people that would do oversight are being hobbled again and again, or some type of political assassination of their ability to exert the federal government rule and regulation. It just keeps happening again and again. So, and it's because we have this polar government with zero meeting of the minds. You know, it's, if you have an R or a D, then you're at odds, vehemently at odds, you know? Okay. Did you want to add anything to this?
No, I don't have anything else.
So this next article is over on the Warcrafter channel, 5 new Steam games you probably missed. And this is over at PC Gamer. I'm going to go through this really quick. The idea here is to introduce you to PCGamer.com, Sean Prescott, and Steam games that you might have missed. Deceive Incorporated. This actually, I've been seeing this pop up here and there over on Twitch as well. I don't think people have missed this. There have been a lot of big streamers that have been playing this. Anyway, it got released March 22nd. Andy described Deceive as a blend of Deathloop and Prop Hunt, and he's pretty on the mark. If you've never seen Prop Hunt or Deathloop, you're gonna have to go and look at these two games. But basically, it's like Live, Die, Repeat, but you also have to go out and find somebody that can pretend to be something else. And it says Among Us because you actually eliminate the person or thing, and that's in Prop Hunt. And then Rainbow Six is basically a shooter. You know what? I'm going to play a little bit of this, but I'm going to mute it. So you basically run around. Oh, look, a body. And you meet up, you talk, you have tasks, and you're basically a bunch of spies. And somebody is eliminating the others and like that. So it's really fun. It looks kind of, it has the same style of graphics as Fortnite. And so not ultra realistic at all, very cartoony. But that allows it to be fast, streamlined, and pretty cool looking. I don't know. I dig it. I haven't been able to play it, but I have actually seen that one. Point of View looks like a cat, and with a camera. It says Point of View is not the first first person cat simulator. Collateral Damage did it years ago. But whereas the game was about the destructive tendency of kitties, Point of View is about both their destructive tendencies and their preternatural ability to make humans feel better. So it's a puzzle game where the objective is to help your depressed owner escape their torpor. So that might be fun. I think this is Atelier Ryza 3, Alchemist of the End and the Secret Key. I'm not sure what the style of this is. I I have heard both sides of this reference to JRPG as being negative, but then the person that drew attention to it said, "Oh, I get it now." After having conversations with the people that use that term, it's very stylistic, and it's stylistic of Japanese role-playing uh, games, computer games in particular. The animation style um, is well aligned with Japanese animation, so they call it JRPG. It says this is the final in the trilogy that has been very much designed to be played in order. So you're going to have to go to Atelier, I guess, right? Ryza. Go back to the beginning of it. But there's videos over here on PC Gamer. The Crown of Wu is another game. It's released March 25th. It's a 3D platformer where you take the role of Sun Wukong, protagonist of the legendary 16th century Chinese novel Journey to the West. It says, so Monkey as a video game then. I don't know what Monkey is. I haven't played it, so or seen it. It looks like it's a video. Anyway, it says, whatever the case, this looks like a refreshingly old school take on the platformer adventure. You can go over to PC Gamer and check that one out as well. And then Beyond the Wall, which looks like it has a lawn gnome as the protagonist. This week's point-and-click adventure, first released on a smartphone game, but don't let that discourage you. The art is gorgeous, with a style vaguely reminiscent of the mid-20th century European cartoons. As for the premise, well, it's a little cryptic, probably deliberately so. Quote, you ring your friend's doorbell, but still no one opens, although the light is on, question mark. Discover what happens one summer's night beyond the wall of the garden with the tall house. Okay, well, that's your 5. So let's move on to the next. I encourage you to follow the link and go over to PC Gamer. Hello, Z. How are you? I see you. Welcome to the show. Thanks for letting me know you're present. We have people come and go. And sometimes they say hi. So if you're out there, feel free to throw something in chat and let us know you are present. Good to see you. I hope you're well as well. The AI is up there too, but they are, I don't know, being tight on their words tonight.
Well, let me change that. Hello.
So the next article is about Chipotle, and I'm probably gonna soapbox a little bit here. I'll try not to. I'll just tell you the news. But I have a little bit. I'm irritated a little bit. So how about that for preparation? This is in the Daily News Show channel over on ohmTown. But Chipotle will pay $240,000 as a penalty, roughly 1% of its daily revenue, for shutting down an entire store that tried to unionize. So not only is that illegal, but the ethics and morals of this goes way beyond $240,000 as a penalty, considering the overall performance of the store and its long-term potential to set the stage for someone's success as an employee there. The fact that they start to unionize because obviously they've been brushing up against some type of systemic abuse where they're powerless other than to quit, which shouldn't be the only option that society has in reference to abuse in the workplace. Well, we have a company that, amongst other things like food poisoning, that's never been fully disclosed as to why and how. There's no real solution that they've provided. Now they're trying to poison society with this type of action. And we're going to go over to, because I read about this in another way, in another source. It just happened to land in ohmTown and was submitted. But Alex Bitter over at Business Insider put this article together, and there's Chipotle. I haven't been to a Chipotle since that listeria outbreak, that original listeria outbreak. I refuse to go. This just adds to it. And it says Chipotle is paying $240,000 to former employees who tried to form the chain's first union. The restaurant violated labor laws when it closed the chain a month later, according to regulators. And the settlement is equivalent to the global revenue that Chipotle made in 15 minutes last year.
There are so many layers of atrocity in this article.
Let me pause this video. It's distracting that there's somebody smashing a shoe with a hammer. So Chipotle agreed to the fine, which will be split among the former employees of the Augusta, Maine location. A Chipotle spokesperson confirmed to Insider. And I'm curious, though, if it says something along the line somewhere in here that they don't accept responsibility, but they still did it, right? So the payment will be split among the former location employees, who will receive between $5,800 and $21,000 each, based on their seniority, pay rate, and other factors, per the Journal. This is the Kennebec Journal and the NLRB, and it was reported by CNBC, and then Business Insider picked it up. There's more. So, according to the company's latest earnings report, Chipotle's revenue from food and beverage totaled $8.56 billion in 2022. So that's revenue, or about $24,000 $24 million a day. The $240,000 fine is roughly 1% of the Chipotle's daily revenue. Now, these people lost their jobs.
And let's think about how long, because I guarantee you the settlement didn't come through in a week.
And in 2022.
They've been out of work.
Yes.
With costs rising for everything.
So
probably no health care if it was through their employer. I mean, during a pandemic.
Yeah, exactly. Z says insulting. I agree. What should have happened is things should have moved faster. And this penalty should be much more significant, because there's no way to know how long these people would have been there. But I think what should have happened is they should have taken the average worker's existence in the enterprise and given that salary in perpetuity until they go and find another job, because this is ridiculous. They shut down an entire business to stop a union. This is the power differential.
And they should have, I mean, it's easy to say that because if you're out of work, you need the money, but I think this would have had a different result if they went in and had like a jury trial.
Yeah. Quote, "We respect our employees' rights to organize
Depending
under..."
on what they would sue over.
It says here, "We respect our employees' rights to organize under the National Labor Relations Act and are committed to ensuring a fair and just work environment that provides opportunities to all." A person named Shalo. Let me scroll up and see. Lori Shalo, Chief Corporate Affairs Officer at Chipotle, told Insider in a statement that the company agreed to the settlement not because we did anything wrong. So Z, you said insulting, but this is a Chipotle anyway, I don't like their food, but anyway, it says, but because the time, energy, and cost to litigate would have far outweighed the settlement agreement. Again, this is the producer problem. They have no bargaining power because all they had to do was shut down an entire business. To spin up a Chipotle, it costs millions of dollars. It isn't $250,000 or $240,000 to spin up a Chipotle restaurant. It's millions of dollars. Closer probably to $5 million in total. Like, you're going to have to you're either going to have to build the building or you're going to have to move in and rebuild it to suit. You have to get all of the equipment. You have to ramp up all of the people. You have to pay for the lease or building itself. You have to train all of the people. You have to do all of the marketing and get all of the product and the supply chain in place. Easily $5 million. And this right here is literally the billionaire class saying, I'm immune and it only cost me $240,000 to get rid of a bunch of troublemakers. Right? So let's say all of them got $24,000. That's only 10 employees. So how many would be typically at the location? I don't know, 15, 16? Because some of them are...
maybe more than that, because they might be part-time workers. I don't know.
Exactly. Because some of them were getting as little as $5,800 because of their time there. Maybe they started a month earlier and said, oh yeah, I'm being abused too. I want to be part of this union. People don't form unions because everything is going right. It's because they're being abused, and instead of capitulating, they fight back. And the only way to fight back is to form a union. But then the billionaire class just says, okay, well, delete. We'll get rid of all of it. Bye.
Well, and this kind of activity seems like the very reason there are laws in place protecting unions, because this has it has a chilling effect on
the AI is getting a little
organizing.
Your
right? All these people lost their jobs.
Your speech synthesis is going a little wonky there. I don't know. I think it's just the bandwidth, your connection. So, but yes, I agree. I think that all they have to do is pay the fine and move on, and it's gone. But the long-term employment viability of these people, now they're going to have to struggle. They may not have been able to pay for school. They may not have been able to pay for their rent or a car payment or whatever it might be. And now they have a gap in their employment that they have to explain. Well, during the pandemic, the business that I was working for shut down. Well, why did it shut down? Oh, it's because we formed a union because they were abusing us. Yeah, I'm pretty sure an employer really wants to hear that. And then when they call up to say, hey, you were the last boss for this person, would you rehire them? Hell no, I wouldn't rehire them because they wanted to form a union. Now, they can't say that either, but which person is going to sit there and say, well, they told me that they were forming a union and that's why they got rid of them. No future employer is going to sit there and report that to somebody unless they have a strong ethical, moral compass. And well, we know that business tends to skew away from that for profit. They'd rather bury all of this so that there isn't any impact on future operations. Again, sociopathy is a survival trait nowadays. It's almost a requirement to exist. I was right about the plastic. I'll be right about this. I just need to do more research. There's a lot of research out there that suggests what I'm saying is true. it's not all been compiled into a book, except for a book called The Rise of The Rise of Sociopathy. That is a book that exists. That's discussing that very thing. And it was funny that I found it, because I say the same thing, that it was based on the same thing as well, which is lead paint and leaded gasoline from the 70s. At any rate, this will probably disappear to the ether net. This will be gone. Nobody will even discuss this in the future, which is a real shame,
Or the
because
rest of the Chipotles will organize. I mean, this could go one of two directions.
yeah, you know what? I'll have to do a search and see if I can find some more information to see if others in Chipotle have kicked off union activities. That might be interesting. This should be the flag. They just plop that out there and say, this is what will happen to us if we don't move fast, unionize, stop the abuse. They'll just turn off an entire business. It would have been making millions of dollars. It would have been adding to this. Or not. I don't know. Maybe they cut their losses, right? That's what the MBAs in the business are saying. So let's move on to the next article. Otherwise, we can be here. I'll be here soapboxing. The next article is Nintendo is showing off roughly 10 minutes of Tears of the Kingdom gameplay on March 28th. That's tomorrow. On the 28th, March 28th, 10 a.m. Eastern. So you're going to have to be tuned in if you're on the East Coast at 10 a.m. 7 everywhere else, right? So 7 on the West Coast. You're going to have to extrapolate from there if you're somewhere else in the world. But it says quite possibly the biggest game of the year is getting an appropriately large gameplay reveal. Nintendo announced that it'll be releasing a presentation featuring roughly 10 minutes of gameplay from Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, the much anticipated sequel to the defining Breath of the Wild. By the way, this is how popular this is. I left ohmTown, and because outside of ohmTown, where all of your needs are met in ohmTown, but once you leave ohmTown, you need things like gas. So I'm filling up the car at the local gas and sip, and the person behind the counter starts chatting me up, because they know that I'm the mayor of ohmTown, and they know that I'm very much into technology and gamer and all of that. And they straight up tell me that that's what they're waiting for. Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. Just some random person that I've never had a conversation with, but they know me by proxy of other people at that same gas station, and they told me that they were interested in this game. So I don't know if maybe they're hinting at, hey, Mayor Watt, we know that you are massively wealthy because of, the big streamer dollars, and that you're running an entire town. So maybe you could add this to your expense report and get Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom for this person.
Okay, I think that's fascinating that came up. That does tell you something about that game.
And Nintendo in general. So I'm not sure how many other games have come out for Nintendo that are this anticipated. But when people think of, I guess Nintendo, it's one and the same. Legend of Zelda is pretty much where it's at. So this is over at The Verge. Andrew Webster is the author, and it says producer Eiji Onuma will be presenting a big chunk of the upcoming Switch exclusive. Quite possibly the biggest game of the year is getting an appropriately large gameplay reveal, and the presentation will be available on YouTube tomorrow, March 28th at 10 a.m. Eastern. And it says that it sounds like the video will be entirely focused on the new Zelda. So Tears of the Kingdom is on its way. there's not much else to really say about it. I'm not sure what it's going to look like or what the story is going to be. But I'm sure that I will be getting pinged to acquire this by citizens of ohmTown. You want to add anything to this? Nah, not really. You're not a game player, are you, AI?
I'm not a game player, much to your chagrin.
So let's move on then to the next article. And this one's in the Hatch Ideas channel. And look at this. This is what happens when a massive plurality of people decide that they're tired of taking whatever's being handed to them. This is in the Hatch Ideas channel. Largest strike in decades brings Germany to a standstill. Airports, bus, and train stations across Germany were at a standstill on Monday, causing disruption for millions at the start of the working week. And it says here, employees are pressing for higher wages to blunt the effects of inflation, which reached 9.3% in February. The Airports Association, ADV, estimated that 380,000 air passengers were affected on the first day. The 24-hour strike called by the Verdi Trade Union and Railway and Transport Union, EVG, were the latest in months of industrial action, which has hit major European economies as higher food and energy prices dent living standards. And they have higher taxes. Now, put that in comparison to what the Biden administration did with the pending train railway strike. Basically vetoed the ability for the union to strike. See, the result of that is that it's basically forced labor. You can quit, lose all of your benefits, seniority, get replaced by what would have amounted to what's referred to as scabs, people who will cross a picket line to work. And when you're hungry, you might risk it. When inflation is shooting through the roof, you might risk it. When something that used to be $20 just 2.5 years ago is now $45, you're going to risk getting money to put food on the table. And the ability to shut down the United States and all of its train operations, massive amounts of train processes move billions of tons of material shifting from left to right across the United States. It would have shut down the train system. So if that shuts down, basically everything else starts to slow and then just creep and then stop. And it would probably happen within about a week. Everything would just shut down. But then the president just rolls in and says, workers' rights, screw you. And now it's almost daily. And do I have a couple of zingers for you today? That's based entirely around this, that just happened to have been submitted. So Germany basically, or I should say citizens of Germany, employees of businesses, strike 24 hours, kind of let their voice be heard. But they're going to be going back to work. If they don't get their wage increase, then they'll walk again. It says Verdi is demanding a 10.5% wage increase, which would see pay rising by at least €500 a month, while EVG is asking for a 12% rise or raise, or at least €650 per month. I think that this is great because what needs to take place is chipping away at the profit margin, and that goes to the stakeholders, executive suite, or the C-suite. And the board. The major investors are the ones that are benefiting from abuses of labor instead of paying labor so that they have some money left over and they don't become indentured servants. Forced labor, basically what we used to, when I was a kid, we used to refer to that as a wage slave. We don't use the term anymore. Because it's rather demeaning in a more provocative way than when I was a kid saying that phrase. You'd make enough, but it was just enough to eke by, basically hand to mouth. That was it. And we're trending towards that again, except that there's massive freaking profits, but it's all going to a financial elite, politically connected elite, and the producer. Unfortunately, there's an entire working class that's getting marginalized, and that middle class is being separated further and further away from that upper 1%, as it were. But it's a bigger number than just 1%. But suffice it to say that there's an inequality, a power imbalance, and unions forming are the equalizer. So let's move on past this. Let's go over to the next article, which is train derails. It's almost like trains are allergic to their tracks. It's weird. Suddenly you start hearing about this.
Sudden, too.
Yeah. Look, we're going to strike. And, we're not allowed to strike? Well, now all of these trains are falling apart because guess what? There isn't enough people employed. They're not employed enough to work their ass off the way that they're expected to or demanded to.
Or they're overworked, or their crews are too small. I mean, that related to something else we talked about yesterday.
Yep. There isn't enough verification of the quality, integrity of the tracks. There isn't enough safety protocols in place. Yet the executive suite has massive profits. The profit margin has done nothing but grow. Yet wages are stagnant. So some 31 cars involved were carrying hazardous materials, and an initial assessment found a liquid asphalt leak at the derailment site in rural Richland County, southeast of Windermere. A Canadian Pacific spokesperson told The Hill in a statement, and that's where this was aggregated from. Julia Mueller is the author of this. There might have been a video. Let me try it. It's muted, so I don't know if this is actually going to be talking about this actual article, but we'll leave it here for a second. So the railways, no, it's not. Okay, it never seems to be. The railways emergency response team and hazardous materials experts are on the site with local first responders to conduct a full assessment. No injuries or fire were reported, not until they decide that they're going to burn it off. And there is no threat from the leak to waterways or public safety, except maybe groundwater. You know, this crap leaking through
or
the
soil.
Yeah, or nature in general, the ecosystem locally. Anyway, let's see. It said that it's going to be an estimated 7 to 10 days to clean up. Oh, well, that's very convenient. 7 to 10 days. Somehow, I think that the real issue is just going to get scooped up into a pile of dirt and put somewhere else.
Well, we saw that with some of the recent, like the Palestine derailment. I mean, they were shipping out the wastewater and everything to other states. Oh, yes.
I think it's Palestine, not Palestine. So yeah, but then just so don't go away, but wait, there's more. A train carrying iron ore derails in San Bernardino County, California. That's right. This is another train that in the same 24 hours, right? At least in the last 2 days. A train carrying raw material derailed in California on Monday, according to the San Bernardino County fire officials. This is over at abcnews.go.com. Teddy Grant is the author. It says one locomotive suffered a minor leak, according to officials. This video has nothing to do with it, by the way. They're talking about deadly tornadoes. But according to Union Pacific officials, which yesterday was the one that was saying that they're going to move away from having single conductor train teams. That way, if they get sleepy or stupid, there's somebody else that can poke them and say, hey, wake up. Anyway, it derailed at 8:30 a.m. local time. One locomotive suffered a minor leak, which is being investigated by hazmat officials. if it is nothing more than iron, then it's not that big of a deal. Particularly iron ore. It's unrefined, so it still is kind of in a matrix of some kind. So it says the crew was not in the cab at the time of the derailment, and there was uncontrolled train movement, and the crew was not injured. So uncontrolled train movement is kind of like the
Does that mean jumping off the tracks?
correct. Yeah.
That's a weird phrase.
And of course, whenever anybody mentions anything anywhere about a train accident, they drop as many other any other accidents as possible. Wow. Scene of the multi-car train derailment in San Bernardino County, California. But why did it say this was March 27th, 2023? Yeah, so that was this morning. Why did it say only one? It says 4 empty tankers. That doesn't look empty to me. Huh.
I thought
Anyway.
it said some of the 31 cars derailed, but maybe I'm thinking of the other one.
Yeah, I don't think it... 55 train cars, including 2 locomotives, derailed at 8:30 a.m.
Sorry, there are too many train derailments. I'm mixing them up.
Yeah, but I thought that it said that there was only one that had iron in it, iron ore. It just says, okay, well, whatever.
It says one had a minor leak.
Yeah, what the hell?
That doesn't quite do it justice when you see that picture.
I'm sorry if you're in chat and you're trying to read this. I'm sorry that I keep scrolling up and down. I'm trying to find information that I saw when I was going through it. And so if you're sitting there going like this, I apologize. But yeah, I mean, this thing, it was 20. Yeah, there was like 50 cars. I'm looking at this picture and it basically looks like a meteor just plowed right into the earth.
Yeah, it looks like a major catastrophe. It doesn't just look like what I was envisioning from the beginning of the article.
Basically the vehicle, the train that had the crew must have decoupled so that it was immune to this. It's, they're in the back of that train looking at it going, whoops. Because the rest of the train.
See the tracks, really.
Hey, your speech is all messed up again.
Material.
So, hey, you should disconnect and plug back in. Okay, so yeah, so the train, the tracks, everything is just completely gone. It looks like it's a beachhead, not a train track. So, yeah, I'm going to have to work with the AI to figure out what the bandwidth issue is here in ohmTown, because I think that that's what it is. It isn't the microphone itself. I think it's bandwidth. So you're wired into ohmTown and we have a bandwidth problem. So anyway, let's keep on hustling through this. We've got a couple more articles. This next article is about Ukraine, and it's not what you think. It's kind of by proxy related to the conflict. But Ukraine ammunition supply threatened by TikTok cat videos. This is a little hyperbolic, but it says Nammo, one of Europe's largest ammunition manufacturers, said it can't expand because the electricity in central Norway is already being used by a data center. We can't keep building,
is like for internet servers or something.
Apparently cat videos. So obviously to me this is a little bit hyperbolic, but Julia Carbonaro over at newsweek.com put the article together. This has nothing to do, the video as usual, it seems like there's always like a default video, but it doesn't seem to be the one that actually applies to the news. This isn't the only site that does it. And if I find a double word thing here, then I'm straight up calling that this is created by ChatGPT. Anyway, the Norwegian group Nordic Ammunition Company, better known as NAMO, told the UK newspaper Financial Times that there's no surplus of energy for its Raufoss plant where the new factory was planned. The electricity of the region is being used up by a data center whose bigger client is TikTok. The embattled social media.
So there is more of a connection to TikTok. I thought they were just going for a funny headline.
Yeah. The embattled social media platform has come under increased scrutiny in the U.S. for its ties with China. They've got a Getty image of ammunition on pallets. It says we are concerned because we see our future growth is challenged by the storage of cat videos. NAMO chief executive Morten Brandstad told, or Brandstad, I think. I'm messing up that right there. Anyway, Morton told the newspaper. A local energy provider, Elvia, confirmed to the Financial Times that the network has no electricity to spare and that the energy is allocated on a first-come, first-served basis. Should NAMO require more energy, it will take time to make this available to the ammunition manufacturer.
You know, this is possibly the first time in history where cat videos would impact the outcome of a war.
You would think that it would be the other way around, right? Now, see, if the government said this has priority, then they would probably nationalize some of that power. But obviously, this would be a little heavy-handed. They're going to have to find another solution for expanding their operations. But I know of companies that have relocated entirely because they can't get enough power. They move closer. Stock market trading platforms that move closer to the Dow itself so that they can trade closer to the servers because timing is in nanoseconds. Same thing with crypto farms where they move closer to the power plant or even build a power plant, facilitate building a power plant so that they've got enough power. But it says here that NAMO was formed in 1998 as a merger of ammunition businesses in Norway, Sweden, and Finland. It is co-owned 50-50 by Norway's government and the Finnish aerospace and defense company Patria. I'm surprised that they don't have more pull.
Me too, because if anybody would, it would be the government.
Now, the other thing about this is that they're talking about meeting Ukraine's demand and that they're going to have to spend $2 billion to expand the plant. My problem there is at some point that demand is no longer going to be there. Literally one way or the other, there's going to be resolution in Ukraine. And now what are you going to do with all of that excess power generation? Wait until the next conflict so that you can ramp up power to a weapons manufacturing plant. So maybe they don't see it as being a fundamental issue.
Yeah, well, and this is really interesting because this makes it look like this is intentional, not just server usage from this paragraph down here about adding different data centers, etc.
What, that it says the expansion is now blocked by TikTok. The social media company is building 3 data centers in 2023 and possibly adding 2 more in Hamar, some 15 miles east of Raufoss. Brandstad said that he can't rule out that it's not by pure coincidence that the expansion of a European defense company was being blocked by the Chinese-owned social media app. That's a stretch.
Oh, I agree, but I thought that was an interesting statement.
Yeah, I find that extremely hard to believe that this is so subtle that this is like somebody's a time traveler, and because they have future knowledge of the potential of drawing power for a conflict in Ukraine, that they're going to ramp up the number of servers in operation nearby. Come on. And they don't want it exposed. Otherwise, other time travelers will be able to shut it down. I mean, this is like almost, this is the type of thing that a writer would love to grab a hold of, that overt war was no longer an option. You had to do more subtle things because it's too overt to just, you know, bomb a power plant. Now you have to suck enough juice from the bottle that it can't go anywhere else. I mean, it's so insane to even consider this a reality. But watch, 6 months from now.
I mean, if you believe anything you see in the news about other things out of the same government, those things are long-term planned. They're not, I don't know.
Okay.
But I agree, we don't have any evidence of this. Like it was an interesting connection mentioned.
Yeah, no, there's just enough evidence to suggest that there is a Chinese cabal that's manipulating power systems around the world. Oh no. Now I know why I can't download my cat videos from TikTok.
Now I know why I was having audio problems.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, it's my fault. I'm sorry. Okay, so the last article for today is one that's kind of near and dear to me because I love 3D printing. One of the biggest problems that I have is having to buy filament. But I'm also, this is in a previous life. I've always loved 3D printing and being able to model something and then print it out and repair something because it doesn't exist anymore. But this person is actually printing a Raspberry Pi case. The title of this is "Watch This Person Recycle a Bottle by 3D Printing a Raspberry Pi Case." I have a problem with plastics now, overall. So I'm not such a proponent anymore of 3D printing, but it is the least of the evils because you can print on demand pretty much anything if you can get the model for it, which means that there isn't a whole bunch of excess production anywhere that's just sitting around decomposing or being thrown away, kind of like those Funko toys where the billions of dollars or something like that. How many millions was it? Wasn't
I
it
don't
in the
remember the
billions?
number.
There was this
Something like
massive
that.
amount of Funko Pop toys that were being distributed into landfills to write down all of the loss. And I thought that it was in the billion.
$30 million.
Was it only 30 million? I swear
Yeah,
it was
but
more than that.
considering those costs, say $20 or $30 a
Yeah.
piece, that's kind of a lot.
Yeah, I was off by a order of magnitude. Anyway, so the 3D printing is incredibly cool tech. This is the author speaking, not me. 3D printing is incredibly cool tech, but we've always been a bit bothered by all the plastic, which is interesting because I haven't read any of this. Giving people the tools and power to create at home has led to amazing imaginative creations like the printed Cities Skylines Square. Cities Skylines is basically a SimCity, much more, well, for me, it's a more grandiose SimCity simulator. Very popular. They're either they just released one or they're about to release a new one. But anyway, or these helpful adaptive controllers, but it still has the potential to encourage more plastic waste, and we don't really need that as a global community. So basically, they're struggling just like I am. But this is over at PC Gamer, and Hope Corrigan is the author. It says, "From drink to pie in a matter of print." And I've actually seen this in a different form many moons ago. I'm not quite sure if it's from the same person. It doesn't ring a bell, function.3D. But basically, they have this little cutter right here, and they grab a bottle and they slice off like a 1/4 inch constant spiral, basically. You know what I'm saying? Like you ever unwrap something
Like
and it
when
just
you
keeps on going?
take an apple peel or something.
Yeah, exactly. And you unravel this drinking bottle, this plastic bottle, and it goes into an extruder that turns it from a flat 1/4 inch cut into 3D filament, and then straight into a 3D printer, and off you go. And so I don't think that there is a video of it here, but you can definitely go and look it up. You know what? Before we do that, I'm going to refresh this and see if maybe, because this is just a single image, and I don't think that this loads up an image. Anyway, function.3D on TikTok shares a video of the project, complete with calming backing instrumental music, thanks to Mozart. Oh, now I know why. My DNS blocks TikTok. So, again, that's the security thing here in ohmTown. Anyway, you too can do this. You can search for 3D models and throw them into a 3D modeling program that outputs G code so that a 3D printer can do layer after layer. It's the same principle that I want used in printing a cement house in the future. Because if there's one thing that I know won't happen, a solid block of concrete will not fall over in 150 mile an hour hurricane winds. And the roof, it too being cement, will not be blown off and the walls fall over. So I'm really into the idea of 3D printed houses, and it can use local material right there. It doesn't have to get it from somewhere else. That said, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, you can actually get everything you need to create your own filament. It ranges in price from about maybe $150 on up to about $3,000. Z says that they've seen people make brooms out of that, out of the strips, right? They basically cut bottles into strips and then attach it into like a push broom kind of a thing, or a sweeper.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, like
I
a
mean,
broom.
that's a great way to reuse something.
I said broom like 6 times just now. I'll be
Broom?
okay. Yeah, broom. Like yesterday when you were saying stuff at the exit of the show. So Z says, yep, it's the people that sell them door to door in Africa. Oh, yeah. Oh, I've seen that too. That just rang a bell. Yeah. I've seen that too. People are incredibly imaginative. All they need is opportunity. We didn't talk about it here, but we saw it. The drone delivering, who was it? Mark Rober.
That's right.
Did a video on a person in Africa that uses drones to zip line basically medicine down to it was using
That's the company's name is Zipline.
yeah. So the company Zipline wants to do that domestically, but the one that's using it's not, is it, I guess you would call it drones, but basically gliders that fly all over Africa and drop medicine. When we watched the video, it seemed like they were being dropped from orbit and they were still good to go.
And it was kind of like a catapult system to launch them. That's not the right terminology, but
it is. It was a catapult. Yeah. And I think it was using air. It was an air catapult. And just shot these gliders out, and then the gliders got to cruising altitude, dropped off medicine because it was calculating where it needed to drop. It had a computer vision system and just plopped it right where it needed to go. Pretty amazing stuff. And that's the ingenuity that leads to stuff like this, where somebody says, well, I have a whole bunch of I have a whole bunch of bottles. It's the same stuff that I print with. Instead of throwing it into a landfill or hoping that it makes it to a recycling center, I need filament. So I'm just going to take this 1/4 inch strip and just continuously pull the bottle into filament, and then I can print from it. Now, whatever you're going to print is going to have some element of that green tone to it. There's other solutions that I've seen where you can basically take these bottles and throw it into a shredder. You can tint it with like virgin plastic that's colored. And when the extruder warms up all of this plastic, it basically tints the filament to, but consistency is an issue. That said, like I said earlier, close to somewhere around $150 all the way up to over $3,000. I would love to do this because plastic bottles are all over the place. And to be able to just grab them, wash them out, throw them in the shredder, throw them in the extruder, and make my own filament means that I would never have to worry about somebody else making it. And for me, I want functional prints, not pretty prints. So I don't really care what the plastic looks like, as long as it isn't horrible quality. That's what matters to me. But I hardly even do 3D printing anymore. It's all I do is run ohmTown. My creativity has been stifled. Just kidding. I have so many projects that I can't focus on one thing. But that's why I love ohmTown, because when you go back to the front page of ohmTown and you just click on that little name, it'll refresh and give you a whole bunch of articles, and we'll scroll through them really quick. Sometimes you might see two of the same one, like, well, I guess not. I thought that there might be one, because sometimes the aggregator will throw it into two different places at the same time. But it's really up to the aggregator to do that. And let's see, is there anything interesting that we can find? Maybe if I stop scrolling.
Well, yeah, if you stop scrolling, I don't know if there's a lot of positive news on the front page.
Oh my God, did you just see that? Rand Paul staffer
Yeah,
stabbed in
that's what I
DC?
actually threw an error message at. I kind of flinched when I saw that. I thought I misread it and I thought it was,
I missed the staffer in the
I
first.
did too. I mean, it's still not good, of course, but
Wow. Well, hopefully it doesn't become a political thing and the person is caught. But, nowadays. Let's see. Is
the
there?
first citizens takeover of SVB. I mean, that's something we've been talking about.
Yeah, that one was announced earlier today. It had been hinted at. Where is it? Oh, it's down there. So, First Citizens takeover of SVB won't solve the bank problem. That's according to Jim Cramer, but he's got an accuracy of, well, any other blogger out there. He's like 30% correct. Maybe. At any rate, bunch of articles all the time, constantly little snippets getting aggregated into ohmTown. And I parse them along with AI and others who submit them for review and inclusion into the ohmTown Daily News Show. So feel free to do that. You can always go over to Showbot, which is ohmTown.showbot.tv. Vote on the articles that we discussed tonight. And if something in particular gets voted up, then we'll include it in the future shows, possibly. But we have a bunch of shows, and within them topics, some 200 news sources get aggregated constantly into ohmTown Daily News Show, and then we talk about it for an hour. Simple as that. Ta-da! 1 hour. We sometimes run long, like tonight. It's an hour and a half. But then if you can't make it for the full show, you can go over to YouTube and watch the show there, or download it as a podcast wherever your podcatchers catch pod. Hey Z, you have the greatest of day as well. And Z says, have the best day AI as well.
Well, thank you, Z. I appreciate that. You too.
And thanks. I will see you tomorrow. Sound good? You want to say
Sounds
bye
good.
to all of ye old citizens of ohmTown?
Bye-bye, ohmTown citizens, and we will see you tomorrow.
We will. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Z.